right, everyone. Welcome back to the Self-Leadership Lab. Today, I'm joined by Salvatore Manzi. He's a leadership communication coach who helps leaders do something most people struggle with, turn complexity into clarity. He has a book coming out in October, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, called Clear and Compelling. It's built on over 20 years of research in neuroscience, psychology, and organizational behavior, along with decades of coaching leaders on how to actually communicate in a way that lands. So Salvatore, welcome to the show. Let's just get right into the heart of the matter because you're a communications guy. Answer me this. Why are so many people scared or fearful of public speaking?
It's so real. Everybody has that fear. And if you don't, there might be something a little off with your networking in your brain. Because when we look out into a crowd and we see a bunch of hungry eyes, our brain is going to respond with fear. And that fear prevents us from accessing the prefrontal cortex, where all our content is stored. And it causes us to shut down and not show up the way that we want to. So we naturally have a fear, and it's also linked to the imposter syndrome. So what I do is I help people recognize in a contextual way what is activating the fear for them. Is it the topic? Is it the people they're talking to? Is it the environment they're talking in? Because one of those three categories typically will spark some sort of like, oh, no, I don't feel comfortable in this situation. And that's when we dig in and we unpack what are the beliefs that I have around that type of person, around that topic. And how can I reframe my strategy so that I can show up with authenticity and be my full expressive self?
Yeah. Well, you got a lot to unpack there. So let's get into the imposter syndrome, because that's a term that's bannered about quite a bit these days in social media and leadership books and all those kind of things. Define it in your terms and give us a couple tips on how we can deal with it if we do have that.
Great. It is a big topic. And for me, imposter syndrome is the body's response to us moving outside of our comfort zone, out of our known identity. So our brain is there to protect us. Somebody said, what's the importance of the brain? It's to protect everything below it. And when the brain recognizes that we're moving into a situation that feels unfamiliar, like we're moving outside of our known area of identity, I don't know who I am in this situation, the brain is going to start sending out signals to back off, pull away, shut down. And those can be interpreted as, I don't belong here. I'm not the expert they think I am. They're going to figure out I don't know as much as I said I did. Whatever it is, it starts to create that imposter of I don't belong here. And to overcome imposter syndrome, there's a 3-step process. Whatever is eliciting it, you want to go through 3 steps. First, name it to tame it. Second, rewire the brain-body loop. And third, take a small step, one small action forward, get the energy moving again.
Okay. All right. So
we can unpack it more.
Yeah. Let's go one by one. So name it to tame it, I think is what you said. Explain that. If you need to use me as a personal example, I'll take the free coaching and we can make me a better, me get over my imposter syndrome, winning if I have it.
Yeah. So emotions live in a different type of processing than rational, right? When we experience emotion, if it's depression, if it's anxiety, if it's fear, if it's whatever it is, emotions go into a different style of processing. Emotional processing is a lot more weighted. We're trying to make sense of it. Once we name something, it switches to rational processing in our brain. Once we've named it, then we can pen it. We can start to process it. We can start to think through it. As long as it lives in the emotional realm of unnamed, it's going to continue increasing anxiety. Once we name it, we can start building a structure around how to actually work with it. So name it to tame it into a logical, rational making. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But let's do a specific example. So I mentioned to you before we come on the show, I am speaking on Saturday. I don't think I have imposter syndrome, but as closer to that time events where I get on stage, who knows what's going to happen. So like in that case, give me a suggestion of a name that I can say, like Little Bobby or Scared Bobby or something like that, or is it something like to the actual event itself?
I name mine by saying, oh, I'm doing something outside my comfort zone. I'm doing something new. Oh, this is growth. This is me expanding my
Mm,
perception of the world and who I am. This is a natural experience for me to be feeling right now because I'm doing something new and different. And when I name the fact that, oh, I'm feeling this because this is the feeling that goes with me taking a new step, trying something new. And undoubtedly, the half hour or the day before, you're going to start feeling like, ooh, should I be the person speaking right now? Do I have my talk down enough to cover 40 minutes? Or what if they don't like what I'm saying? Like, how am I going to like your brain is going to start sending all of those like fear signals. So if you name it and say, oh, this is the natural reaction to trying something new. I know what this is. Now let's go to the next step.
yeah, no, that's very helpful. I like that. I like that. And speaking of going to the next step, you had a better, but all I was able to write down was rewire the brain. But
Yeah.
go ahead and rename this step and let's talk about it a little more.
The brain body loop.
There you go.
Yeah. People say, are you smiling because you're happy? Or are you happy because you're smiling? Because what happens, we know that what the body is doing is sending messages to the brain as well as the brain sending body to the messages. So rewire the brain body loop is this. When you're in that moment where you feel like I don't belong, I can't, this is imposter, or you're in that moment of like, oh, I'm overwhelmed, or I feel like such a depression, just changing your physical nature is going to rewire the brain body loop. When I open up my chest, when I spread my shoulders back, when I spread my feet out a little bit, when I take up space, it sends the signal to the body of like, I belong here. I am here. I am fully present. A lot of times, what happens with the fear of public speaking, people go into their head and they start perseverating about stuff. If you get yourself back into your body, sometimes for me, it's just like tapping parts of my body or squeezing my hands or stomping my feet to get out of my brain and into my body. And then taking up more space, it starts to relax that brain body loop to enable me to find a little bit more grounding, clarity, resourcefulness to show up in that moment.
Yeah. Change your state, change your mind. It's all connected. And I've found that too. You know, a lot of coaches will say, hey, before you go into a big meeting, do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks. You see that Matthew McConaughey where he does that tapping thing. I don't know if you've seen that on Wolf of Wall Street, I think was the movie that he did. Yeah. There's even some tapping guys I've seen on Instagram, because Instagram or socials that say, hey, this is how they, and it really does. It changes change your mind, change your state, or change your state will change your mind. I'm going to take a little sidetrack on this one because this is how my mind works. But while you were talking through that, a lot of times I think because you mentioned imposter syndrome again, a lot of times I find when people coach or let's say public speaking or whatever they're doing, they're sharing information that they've collected and they're comparing themselves to whomever they collected that information from. So like if you're a coach and you're like a motivational coach, maybe it's like Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or something like that. Well, they're at the peak of the pyramid, at the highest mountain, so to speak, in those industries. But the fact is most people that you're speaking to haven't read as much as you have or don't know near about the subject you do. So like that's one thing I like to coach people on is like, listen, you're going to say something and you're going to borrow people's ideas and you're going to do all this stuff, but you're going to give them information they've never heard before. So they're not going to be like, oh, he missed a word here or he ummed and awed a little bit. They're going to be so fascinated by something that's new to them because their learning curve is going to be very steep. And I think a lot of times as professionals, or in my dealings with people, sometimes that was one thing that helped me get over imposter syndrome is like, I might not know everything because the older I get, I realize I don't know everything about anything, but I probably know more than the next person and I'm excited to share it with them. Can you give me your thoughts on that as a professional? Am I offline there? Does that make sense?
There's truth. There's a lot to unpack. Number one, learn what everybody else is saying about it and then make it your own. That was the best advice I ever got from a mentor. Learn what everybody else is saying and make it your own. And it is kind of rooted in a principle that I teach all of my clients. And that is, you may not be the smartest in the room. You may not be the best dressed or the the richest or whatever it is, but you have a unique perspective. And the fact that you're in the room means that that perspective is needed. So rather than thinking, do I have all the information? Am I just borrowing from this person? And are they going to get, if you're sharing from your perspective, there's value to it. When you speak from your heart, everybody feels it. And it doesn't have to be the smartest or whatever, the most colorful. But if you're speaking from your heart, you're adding your perspective, you're adding value to everybody. Really.
Man, I love everything about that, and I think that's just a good leadership lesson. A good whatever you're doing, being yourself, being that authentic. That another word that's being thrown around, authenticity. But if you're in touch with who you are and you know who you are and you're leading yourself, you have no other choice but to be authentic. So sorry for that little sidetrack there.
Wait, if I could on what you just said, like one of my favorite quotes from your Substack that I was reading is the disciplined governance of your inner world so your outer life becomes evidence of your convictions. If you know who you are and you keep that discipline within, then your outer world begins to mirror that and your leadership starts to show up. I love the way you're taking this.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. 'Cause that's a new concept I've got about standards and really, I've redefined self-leadership because, the classic definition is you lead others and then you can't lead others until you lead yourself. But I'm like, well, what's Bobby's definition? What, like you said, in my perspective, and it's like govern your inner world. And that comes from, as you know, and the audience knows, a lot of years where I didn't do that. I outsourced my inner world. So my external world was a chaotic mess because I was always trying to please everyone, and you can't please everyone. And I think that also relates to public speaking. And I'm nowhere near the expert review on this, but, if you're trying to please everyone in the room, you can't do that. It's impossible. Someone is not going to like you, and we're going to talk about appearance later, but there's going to be some people who don't like my hair, or they only focus on my hair, or they focus on your hair, or whatever suit you wear, or whatever clothing you wear. But you know what? That's not the person you're there to speak to. Like the way they always say when you do a podcast or when you do anything, you're speaking to one person. Like that's the way I think when I speak. Like even when I'm in a meeting or like I said, I told you before, I haven't publicly spoke. It's probably been 20 something years before I gave a speech. And I'm just going into the deep end. And I tell you what,
40 minutes. You're doing
40 minutes. And I'm so excited about it because it's exactly what I wanted to do. This is the whole purpose of this, is to get my message out. And not because my message is the gold standard, but because, like I told you before in the pre-show, like if I can make one person live their life better, that's my purpose, because I was that person. Like 6 years ago, if I was at a speech listening to me, I'd probably be the guy making fun of the guy's hair, even though it's mine, right? But yeah, I like that. But go ahead.
I want to jump on what you just said, if I could make one person's life better. And for me, the question I've been asking myself, because I follow that same edict, like my goal is to just reach one person. How can I make their life better? What I've realized is I can give them permission to be themselves by being more of myself. Because when I get up on that stage, when I get in front of those people, when I'm talking about this topic, Salvatore, you are the expert on public speaking. And I'm like, now I gotta I start to think, who am I in relation to that topic? Who am I in relation to that person? And my identity starts to spiral and my imposter monster starts to take over. And I have to remind myself, these are my values, standards. These are my values. This is what I stand for. And I'm not here to please. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm not here to help you feel better about me being here or whatever. I'm here to be myself. And by my standing up and saying, hey, I've had my trials and I got to where I am, and I'm going to speak louder now so that people behind me have a chance to feel that same encouragement to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything about that. I'm glad you got to that place. So let me just ask you, was there ever a time that you weren't that person, that you didn't? Yeah?
Yeah, totally. I mean, first of all, I'm more of an introverted, guided person. I prefer solo time. So I had to learn how to show up as an extrovert to own the stage. And that itself was there. But I grew up in a small Kansas town, very conservative. And as a gay boy growing up in that, like I felt like, oh, I don't belong here. I don't belong. People don't want to hear people like me speaking. They don't want to hear my opinion. They don't want to hear what I have to say. And I had to tell myself, yeah, there is a reason I'm here, and there's a reason why I've made it to where I am. And if nothing else, I want to give space for other people to be fully authentically themselves in whatever situation they're in and show that to the world.
Mm. I got to make a joke here because I said it to you when I met you, but you can name yours. You're not in Kansas anymore, right?
Good, right?
I had to do it. I had to do it. But one thing that I heard from that, in all seriousness, is when you were a child, someone else or a collective group of someone else's didn't allow you to be yourself.
Right.
They didn't allow you. Yeah. And like just the thinking about like when we're on stage or we're communicating, I know we're kind of off topic here, but when you disallow someone else to be themselves, not only do you rob from them, but you rob from yourself. So first of all, don't let anyone take from you, right? Write your own story, which I'm so happy that you've gotten past that, because how many other Salvatores in the world haven't? And they're still living in that cage. I had another guy on the podcast, so it's still his expression, but they're living in a prison without bars. These are bars that we put on ourselves. And I think a lot of times this is relevant to public speaking and getting your voice out there.
100%.
We're scared. Yeah. So expound on that for me.
There's an idea that like there's something happening for me that most people can't see. There's a world going on in here, and I can show up and people don't automatically assume what's going on behind the scenes for me. And until I reveal my truth, people don't know. But there's everybody in the room is sitting with something that makes them hesitate to show up and show all of themselves. And what would it be like to create or sit in a circle where you could show that side of yourself, get comfortable with that side of yourself, get friendly and make a partner with that side of yourself, so that instead of feeling like it's going to come out sideways, you know that you can present that side of yourself without it being like a complete takedown of everything that you know about yourself. Like imposter syndrome isn't tackled in one go. It's little pieces, little cuts along the way to chip and carve to create that authentic you. I mean, it's a word that's too battered around, but the authentic you in expressing who you are. So maybe you want to share with one person, what's the hidden thing that keeps you from showing up? What's the hidden belief that has you believing that you can't show up in that circle, speak on that topic, and be that person that you know you are out there?
Yeah, wow. I think that's a great segue to your third point. At least how I wrote it down very quick is like take an action. Now I know that's not exactly what you said, but that's exactly what you were just talking about. Consistent action. Maybe you're not on a stage of 100. Maybe you tell it to one person. Maybe tell it to two. That's taking an action, taking you out of your comfort zone, helping you get over that imposter syndrome, giving you the confidence. But go ahead and talk about that third step a little more and expound.
We named it, tamed it. So I know, wow, this is what it is. We rewired the brain-body loop by getting into our body, using some techniques. We can go through a lot of self-regulation techniques. I think that everybody needs a whole toolkit of those. And third, take a small action. Now, I want to emphasize that small action does not mean solving whatever the situation is. That's not the goal. What you're wanting to do is take one small action. If you're in the heat of a moment, you're in a meeting and your boss just called on you and asked you to answer for, and there's like a moment of like, whatever, you don't need to take a big action and make a big statement. What you might want to reach for is appreciate I think you could say something like, I appreciate you bringing this up. I want to give you a good answer. So let me take some time and then I will get back to you. Just buy yourself some time. That might be the right action to take. The right action to take might be just to step back for a minute and ask the room, like, hey, am I reading this the way you are? The right action might be, and my favorite thing is state the obvious. Can you look around the room and say, wow, there's a lot of tension in the room, right? Just naming it, like, people feel relief when you do that. So the right action does not mean solving the problem. It means doing something, one tiny step in the direction of movement to get the ball rolling, get momentum started.
Yeah, on the whole thing about taking small actions, why do you think so many people try to climb the whole mountain in one step? Why do you think that's our mentality?
Uh, oof. Wow, let's go on a side quest on this one. I think it's because the media lifts up and we as humans lift up the people that are the champions and we completely discount everything that they did to get to that spot. So we think that we have to take this leap to perfection. I
Yeah,
don't know. What do
yeah.
you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that whole instant success takes a long time phrase always rings in my mind
I
because
like that.
I think there was his name is Chris Williamson. I'm going to botch his quote a little bit, but he said, the thing you want the most, you're unwilling to do the work to get you to the thing you want the most. We do see all these people at the top and we're like, oh, this person's fortunate. But like, take Jeff Bezos, for example. Like, if you've ever read his biography or any of his written works, he used to sit on his garage floor at night after he worked his finance job, boxing books up. He didn't even have, like, someone had to tell him, hey, this will be easier on your body and your spirit if you get a table. Like that's the kind of the grind he did. And now look at the empire that he built. And again, anyone that's good at anything, at the perfection, we talked about this earlier, we always look at the person that's on the highest mountain at the time, but there's probably somebody out there that's even on a higher mountain than them. But like, do you want to put in all that work to get to where they are? So I think that that's one thing that we do discount so drastically, or no, I know I definitely do.
Yeah, and that elicits a sense of overwhelm immediately. Like
Mm.
I can't get to that. Like I see the gap between where I am and where that is, and I can't imagine myself getting all the way up there. So that overwhelm shuts me down. There's two aspects here. Number one, overwhelm is often a sense of a lack of control over the situation and an unrealistic expectation of a destination. What I do to get overwhelmed is to start writing down. Like, just make a list of everything. Just make a list. Doesn't even have to be a complete list. Just make a list. It starts to create some sense of control over what feels uncontrollable. And once I have a list, I can start prioritizing and then I can take a small step. So that's my go-to to get out of the state of overwhelm. The other aspect of this is there's a Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. Don't know if you read it. So good.
Love it. Love it.
Fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Fixed mindset says, I can't do that. I tried it once when I was in third grade. It sucked. I'm not doing it. Growth mindset, I tried it once. I failed, but I learned something. What can I do next time? It's all a game of iteration. And that book changed my life because I was a perfectionist to such an extreme. I actually named my inner perfectionist Perry the perfectionist. And so every time I got up in front of a group of people, Perry would be in the back of my head going, "Oh, you just said that wrong. You missed a spot," just criticizing me. And I realized, I need to make friends with Perry. I need to ask Perry to step aside while I'm presenting. But I took that book, and every time I did something and I went, my first response was that, hey, I tried something new. What did I learn? And I started giving myself credit and analyzing it from a perspective of like, hey, what can I do? Okay, of course I didn't make it. It was the first try. First tries rarely actually hit it. Who hits a home run on the first go? And if you do, you even raise the bar for next time you're up to plate. That can be even more stress. So thank God I messed up. Thank God I've got a progress. I don't know. I'm going off here, but those are the ways I deal with overwhelm.
No, I love that. And I think going back to that book and the book Mindset, which I recommended many times on the show, and I think it's one of the best books I've ever read. I think saying I can't or I won't or I didn't, all those negative self-talk things that we take for granted, I think that creeps into your imposter syndromes because you've been telling yourself I can't for so long. Start saying, if you're going to use the word can't, say I can't yet or I haven't yet. Just add another qualifier on there. I say try to eliminate it from your vocabulary as much as possible, right? Because I think that just gives you imposters. It reinforces, like you said earlier, your brain's here to protect you. If I say, Bobby or Salvatore, you can't enough, you're going to start believing it. right?
100%, 100%. And every time I'm coaching somebody after they do a lap, right? I will, or a rep, they'll do one iteration of it. I'll say, okay, what did you do well? And they'll be like, "Ah, it was too long and I used how many filler." And they give me this whole litany of things that they didn't do well. The brain is wired to find mistakes. It is a survival mechanism built into our brains. If we don't get out ahead of it, if we don't force ourselves to stop and focus on what did you do well? What is working? What did you learn? The brain is only going to take us down as a form of like survival. That's all it.
Yeah. Yeah, and take the credit that you just did it. Just the fact that you whatever you failed at, like think about you did it. You know, coaches always talk about wins and celebrating wins, and this is one I struggled with for a long time. And I think a lot of like, people who are I don't know, high functioning, whatever you want to call it, high achievers, overachievers, whatever the negative term is for society, but someone who does a lot. Let's just simplify that. They always are. And now I've lost my train of thought, man. I got on a roll, got excited, but
High achievers really does it though. Like it is, there's a whole side quest right there because high achievers does immediately spark in people's brain. They work hard. They're so dedicated. They never give up, right? No, that's not the truth. High achievers have learned how to get into a state of flow before they start operating. There's something I've started working on called effortless action.
mm,
When am I efforting out of a need to drive this forward? And when am I efforting out of a sense of like, oh, yeah, this is the logical next step. This is fun. I'm actually enjoying this. To get in that state, I will play. Honest to goodness, I will play with an animal, a dog, or tug of war, or I'll play with a game, or I'll do something to start getting the mind into a playful state. And then I'll look at the project that I'm working on and be like, what's the first thing I can do? All right. And do I want to do another thing? Do I want to do it? It becomes this motion where I get more done in 15 minutes in that state than I would as a high achiever with a whole, this is what I do to get done, and I am dedicating the next hour to getting this done. Right? No, it's not even my best work. I might get it out the door, but it's not my best work. I need to get into a playful state and go into effortless action to become a high achiever that produces good results.
I really like that. I want to unpack a little something that I'm probably not even prepared to do it because I respect you and I like what you say so much. I was reading last night about flow, and the person and I don't even know the name of the book right off the top of my hand. I'll put it in the show notes when I go reference it. But the person was saying that you get into flow state when what you're doing is in congruence with your values. And I've never heard of flow state like that. Like I've read a lot of books on flow, run some miles to exhaustion. I've sought flow out, but like what clicked for me in that whole thing is when we were talking about values and all this stuff earlier. A lot of times when you are dead on your values and you're pursuing something you really care about, I do find you get in that flow state. I think it's what you were talking about earlier was when that gets disrupted. You got to go and disrupt your mind to get back in that flow state. It's not that you lost your values. It's not that you lost anything. It's just that maybe a little blip in the road, maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome creeped in your mind. But what do you think about that just idea that flow comes from your values?
I like that because I always look for the friction point. Where's the friction in me doing what I know that I need to do to move myself forward? Where's the friction? And if I'm not clear on what my values are, that's going to keep me from being able to move easily in the world, period. But if I can look at whatever that project is, align it with my values and say, oh, this is where it doesn't feel completely right. What can I adjust around this project to align with my values so that it goes back into a flow state? Too many times I have somebody who is middle of the chain and they're having to deliver a message from above to those, and they don't feel comfortable with the message. It is really tricky. The challenge is to find what aspect of that message does align with your values so that you can communicate in an authentic way without disparaging or throwing them under the bus or saying you disagree. You can still communicate that message in a way that aligns with your values when you're clear about your values and you've done that work. So I agree. When I'm not in a state of flow, I got to go back and look, where is the friction point? What can I do to step away and bring play and bring alignment to my values to get me back in the flow?
Yeah, yeah. It's something I'm going to unpack over the next few weeks because I found it so interesting and I love the flow state that I've experienced in the past. But and again, I'm sometimes in work, deep work, whatever you want to call it. I do get that flow state, but I mean, I think it's different, the physical flow versus the mental flow. But it's like, how can you draw on both to become like the best person? And, and again, I think imposter syndrome or any kind of fears you have, self-doubt, anxiety, it's always going to be that tension you talk about. So finding those, identifying it and naming it. I that's the one thing I'm taking away from you is name all these things because that's not something I've done in the past.
And notice where you're in a flow state outside of that project. For me, I was a swimmer, not professionally or anything like that, but that was my I loved swimming. And I will never forget the first time that I got into a flow state while swimming. I did an entire Olympic pool and what felt like 3 strokes. Like I didn't even realize I was in this wild state. And I go back to that and I think to myself, am I in that state right now where I am so aligned and attuned that it's just effortless action to get to the other side of the pool? And
Yeah,
knowing
yeah.
that I can get there means I can get there as well. That's a lot of there. So there's a lot of there. And I'm just saying, we're going back to the honest, right?
Oh man, we have taken this conversation. We knew it was going to go crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
all
two
great
Italians,
things.
like it's hopeless.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. We're just going at it. I don't have as much hands as you though, so I need to get my hands more into it. I think to be.
That is something to keep in mind. You are communicating more with your body than you are with your voice, with the words, right? And we are a whole thing of presence. Presence is kind of a big topic for me in working with clients. What do you do to show up with presence? How intentional is your presence? But in order to really engage your audience, they need to see that movement. They need to see your hands. They need to see your body interacting. That's now you're becoming self-conscious. You're adjusting. I see you doing this. You're a natural at this. And I think the challenge is you are seated and you are having to stay present for a box on a screen. And what I train all of my clients to do is like, you need to bring your hands into the screen a little bit every now and then. We are wired to believe that that other person might be holding something that could hurt them or us until we see the palm of their hand.
Oh, wow.
Once you see the palm of a person's hand, our brains relax. And now I can listen to you more because I know that there's nothing that's going to like, and let's be honest, on virtual, if I can't see your hands, I assume that you're texting somebody, you're writing, right? So showing your hands every now and then while you're talking, or if you're listening to somebody holding a pen, I think you have a pen,
Oh
or
yeah, I got it right there.
yeah, right. It gives the other person the feeling that you're being paid attention to, and I'm listening, and I'm not doing something over here. So yeah, share your hands once every couple of minutes.
Dude, let's go to chase another rabbit on this one since you're talking about presence and what people do with their bodies. Like when you're speaking to someone, and I've noticed lately, someone's up there giving a lecture, even in a meeting, whatever it is, and people are on their phones. Like,
Ugh.
like, what do you tell a speaker to one, just ignore that, but then also I mean, again, common sense would tell everyone put their phones down. I like it when you go to these comedian shows or sometimes concerts now, they make you put your bag in a Faraday bag and or check it in at the thing at like a coat check or something like that. Because I mean, that is like, I don't know because like I said, I haven't spoken in a while. So how about on Saturday, I'm on the stage and I see 5 people on their phones. Like, what do you coach people to get over that? And see, look, I'm putting my hands in the screen. So
Quick learner. It is tough. And I'm going to give you the number one way to deal with somebody in your listening audience on their phone. Are you ready for the number one way?
Yep.
Pause.
Ah.
As a speaker, you want to pause, but don't pause at the period or the comma. People are used to those kind of beats. What you need to get used to is what's called the anticipatory pause. And the anticipatory pause is the one that sort of leaves them hanging. And I just did. I was watching you. I waited till you looked up to see if I was frozen or something. Right? When you hold that anticipatory pause, people on their phones are going to look up to see, wait, what's going on? And whatever you say after that is going to have renewed interest in their mind. It's a game. Keeping people's attention is the work of a speaker. It's not their responsibility to stay tuned into you. It's your responsibility to keep them engaged. And that means every 3 to 5 minutes, you need a pattern disruption that's going to change up the situation a little bit and enable them to reconnect and feel re-engaged with you. Ask a question, change your PowerPoint, move on the stage, have a long pause, something every 3 to 5 minutes to re-engage them. And I would say to anybody out there, if you see people on their phones, imagine them as having to deal with a crisis. Their child in the like, make a story up that gives them an excuse to be on it, and don't make it about you. Because the biggest thing I tell people in terms of the engagement is it's not about you. I had to teach myself, not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. And I have to say it 10 times before I get on a stage, 10 times before I respond to that angry person, 10 times. I keep telling myself, it's not about me. It's not about, because the people out there in the audience, that sour face, that distraction, they are hungry. They're thinking about like this drama that they have. Like, people have a whole world going on.
Yeah, yeah. And just because you mastered the presence and the presence on stage and all that doesn't mean other people, I mean, if not, we wouldn't be talking about presence so much in society today. I mean, everyone's seeking that. But, you know, the way I say it is, if you're going to take time to drive to an event, a conference, whatever it is, you know, the phone can wait. You can let everyone that knows. I mean, again, there are emergencies and all that kind of thing, but the presence comes when you take that away. I've started using this thing during the workday. It's I held it up before. It's this little thing, and it basically makes your phone a brick. So you scan your phone in, and the only way, so your phone, like, you can let a couple things in, like phone calls. Shocking. The phone actually can call people, right? But it until you physically go find that device and rescan it in, your phone is a brick, and it's called brick. And there's a lot of different ones out there on the market. I just happened to pick this one up, and it's really, really cool because, you know, we tell ourselves, hey, I'm not going to distract myself or this, that, and the other, and you do. I mean, you're like, oh, I got to check this email, see if Salvatore's running late or whatever. Well, that turns into 15 minutes of looking at, you know, who knows what. All these little things pop into your mind. Just a little side bit there, but yeah.
I don't know if you know the Pomodoro technique.
Oh, yeah.
That's what helped me. Like, I don't brick my phone. I love that, by the way. But I use the Pomodoro, knowing that for the next 20 minutes, I'm just solidly focused. Sometimes if I don't have a deadline, it feels too much. I'm not going to be able to stay focused for an hour, but I'm going to do it. No, I'm going to do 20 minutes, and then I'm going to get a glass of water or something like that. I love this brick thing. I have a lot of friends, I think, that would really get into it. Like, we're going to really go on a tangent here, but there's certain apps that I have to like put timers on in order to keep myself like scrolling infinitely, kind of thing.
Yeah, but then they say sometimes you get to the end of the timer and it says, do you want to add another 15 minutes or 5 minutes? And it's like, it's so easy to hit a button. Well, with this one, it won't even let you open the app. It literally breaks the phone. But yeah, I know that's a side tangent on, it's interesting you said the Pomodoro method, because when I was in school and I had to crank out all these papers, I tried all kinds of time management methods. And I found, like, for me, the Pomodoro only worked maybe 90% of the time, because sometimes that alarm would go off and you were in a flow and then it disrupted it, and it might take the hour to get it back, you know? So I always tell people, hey, the Pomodoro method's great. It may work for every single person. It just depends on your personality, and it depends on what your state is that day. And again, maybe that's something we talked about earlier, maybe changing my state. You know, it's unfortunate when I needed a lot of these tools, I didn't have anybody like you in my life to talk them over. Imagine how much more productivity, you know, I mean, but it's like anything, like you start school, you start heavy research, you start this, by the time you're done with it, you've shaved off 40-50% of your time, because again, this goes back to what we're talking about, public speaking or anything. The more you do something, the better you're going to become. You're going to learn things. And then like the Pomodoro method, you can learn what doesn't work and what does work for you. Because a lot of people are going to hear this, look it up, download the app and start doing Pomodoro because Salvatore Manzi said, this is what we got to do, you know,
No.
and again, that's one thing I tell everyone. Like you said it earlier, make it your own. Like Burger King had it right a long time ago. They said, have it your way. And I know that
The crown. Okay, yeah.
yeah. Well, the crown too. That was also pretty cool, right? You know, as a kid, the crayons you could draw on the back of it. But I don't even know if they still do that, because I'm not promoting going to fast food restaurants here, folks. That's not at all what this is for. But the slogan was so good, have it your way, and that's the way any leadership technique, any communication technique, I assume, you know, take advice from the experts, but make it yours, because what works for you isn't going to work for me, because your life experience is so different. Your knowledge base is so different. If I try to be you, I'm going to fail every time. But if I just be me, then it's going to work out most of the time, right?
Spot it, got it.
Look
One of
at
my
you, man.
favorite quotes. It was one of the most inspiring things somebody told me. If you can spot it, if you can spot somebody doing something that you think is great, that means you have the capacity to do it. If you got it, just takes courage to get out there and try. Make it your own. You're not going to do it the same way as them, but do try to emulate them to learn what you can do to start making it your own. So if you spot somebody up on the stage that's doing an awesome job, that means you have the ability to do that yourself if you do the reps and get your way up there.
Yeah. Keep learning from every situation you got in life, and no telling. Well, man, we're all over the place. And I know we wanted to talk. I mean, I don't
want to talk about our hair. You have no idea. I shaved my head, and it like transformed my life. People are reacting to me differently. I feel liberated. There's a part of me that doesn't feel like I used to show up as the professional guy in the room, and now I'm showing up with the buzz cut, and it was shaved. And your hair, it gets a lot of like hair appearance makes such an impact, but I'm taking us down another tangent. It sounds like you're trying to wrap up.
No. I want to hit appearance before we go, because it was something that was near and dear to your heart. Appearance in public speaking. I think we can go two ways with it. Number one, you can care too much. You can obviously care too little, but what's the right amount about appearance? Because like we said earlier, not everyone's going to like your new haircut. And it's really interesting to me that people would make that comment to you. Like you wouldn't go up to someone and be like, man, that zit is really cool. I like what you're doing there. I mean, but like hair, it's like a free for all for people. It's like they're gonna say, like, I can't tell you how often I get comments, either they like it, they hate it. You know, bald guys will always come up to me like in an airport and be like, I hate you. And I'm like, you don't even know me, dude. Like it's not my fault that I have it. Now, granted, it's a little messy, and I get told like I used to have the sousaphone. The first time I met you, sousaphone behind me distracted. Maybe my hair distracts people, and if so, probably that's something I need to consider, because again, you don't want anything to get in front of the message. But at the same time, where's that balance for a speaker? Where's that balance in your leadership experience?
You just named it. You need something that's going to get their attention in a way. Like, you need to be presentable enough that you evoke the right response from other people. And you don't want to be so bombastic with an appearance that that's all they take away from what you're feeling. My rule is this: like, I want to be put together enough so that when I'm in a situation, I'm not self-conscious about the way I am showing up, the way I appear. I don't know, like I noticed in certain cultures, the first thing they do is like they do this and they look at your shoes. I learned in a certain place that I lived, I learned that if your shoes aren't polished, they see you as less than. And for the first time in my life, I cared about how my shoes looked, which I never cared about before, because I could tell people were putting me on a scale based on the way my shoes are. So I want to go into any space feeling comfortable about how I appear, so that my brain energy isn't spent on, oh, they're looking at do I have something? Is there something wrong with, I want to feel like I'm at least above average in that room. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I don't think about it very often, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously the hair comes into play a lot, but just because people mention it, but I don't really think about it. But I do notice that, like, if you set a standard, and going back to that, a standard about the way you want to look and how you dress. I mean, I like that whole concept, like Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs, where they wear the same thing every day, that take away that decision anxiety.
Uh,
There's a lot that I like about that. But then there's also, like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I say, I hate to say it, but I struggle with judging the way some people come into a room in a situation, and it's like, why would you wear that to this event? It's like, I don't know. It's people always say don't be overdressed, but unless you're wearing a tuxedo, can you really be overdressed? So,
yeah, you could be overdressed. When I first started doing trainings, they sent me into, and I won't name the company, Facebook. And I'm already older than anybody that was working there. And then when I show up in my stuffy old man suit, people were like, should I even listen to this guy? Like it played with my mind. It played with my ability to connect. Like you want to look at what the organizational norm is, and you want to go just above that norm so that you feel like you're showing up at least put together enough that people look at you and they don't get distracted by what you're wearing, and they feel like you actually belong in the group too, but what you're wearing. But if bow ties and tuxedos are your thing, make it your thing. It could be your brand. Eventually people will get used to it, but no.
Yeah, but just know that you're going in as an outlier, and hey, as long as you're happy with it, be the outlier. It's great. But yeah, I don't know, that whole thing. It's funny. I think the older I get, the less I think about stuff like that. Now, I live in the DC area, so it's a very suited, environment. You're in California today, so it's a whole different culture. And I was hoping, like, when Amazon put their headquarters close here, that it would kind of change some of that. But again, you still have politicians, and, like, I don't even think you can get on, like, the House and Senate floor unless you have a tie. And I think even your top button has to be buttoned. I think they have a guy at the door. Like, what a job, right? You're the tie checker guy. Yeah. Yeah. I'll be like, hey, man, you can't come here with that. But yeah, I mean, again, appearances bring confidence. And so I think that, like, if when you're trying to get over this imposter syndrome, dress to impress, but dress to impress yourself. Do everything to impress yourself first and foremost. Again, I always preach not in a selfish manner, but as we've talked about a lot of issues today, it all deals with us and how we communicate with others, how we interact with the world, how we communicate our message. But at the same time, you're not going to want to go and see the Pope in, like, flip-flops and board shorts and no shirt, right? Either. I mean, there's appropriateness to everything, but at the same time, find whatever that balance is. You don't have to wear a suit and a tie, but at least tuck your shirt in, or shine your shoes if you're in whatever culture you were in. Well, Salvatore, we have probably covered a lot which you didn't want to cover, and a lot I think we covered a lot today, and this was such a great conversation. I'm gonna 100% have you back on the show, and that's awesome. A great segue to, and maybe we'll be more focused, but probably not. But it's a great segue because you have a new book coming out. I mentioned it in the intro, but tell us a little bit about that. And you mentioned a special offer you've got for people, so just lay it out there, and then also tell them where else they can get you, outside of the book, unless it's one and the same.
Great. Thanks. Yes, the book is coming out in October. It's called Clear and Compelling. You can go to clearandcompellingplaybook.com and you can see. If you pre-order now, pre-orders actually mean a lot to the book world. So if you pre-order now and send me the receipt, I will send you an advanced e-reader copy. So you can get your copy, an e-reader copy now, and you'll get the book when it comes out. But it comes out in October. It's 20 years of communication coaching to leaders and groups, and the psychology, the neuroscience, lots of communication strategies for bringing your ideas into a room and having impact with them. Oh, yeah. And then find me on LinkedIn or find me on my website. I love to hear, like, what's your individual, like, challenge with public speaking? Where does imposter syndrome show up for you? Like, let's start a dialogue and keep going.
Yeah. The more we can learn from each other, put all your fears out there, concerns, because somebody's going to be able to say something that resonates with you, and that's really cool. So yeah, I'm super excited about your book, and I do encourage everyone, go get it. I'm gonna go pre-order this. You said it's available by the time this comes out. It's available for everyone to go pre-order. You said this week.
Yeah.
Okay,
just
cool.
Started pre-order this week, so
nice. And then also, I'm gonna add, because he's too nice to say it, after you read it, give him a review, because reviews are also very critical I mean, even just give it a 5 stars and say, hey, just say one good thing you like about this book, because it really does help get in the algorithm. And I think it's like 11,000 books a week come out these days. So it's like, being that outlier, getting that special bump, but before we get out of here for good, you want to give your final thoughts, your final inspiration, anything you want to say? Now's the mic is all yours.
Focus on the positive. After anything you do, stop and ask yourself, what did I learn? What did I do well? And make a list of that. End your day with what were my top 5 moments today where I learned something, did something new, tried something new, and feel good about myself. Go to bed with that. Thanks so much for having me on here, man. This was awesome. Let's do it again.
Thanks for coming on. And I tell you what, spending time with you today, one of my top 5 things. I'm gonna go ahead and just spill the beans on that one. You're definitely there. So I really appreciate your time today. And for all those listening, please seek Salvatore out. Take what he's got, because all of this stuff, even though we're talking about communication, imposter syndrome, it's all going to help you lead yourself better. So until next time, I'm Bobby. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.